What's going on, my fellow collectors? Jim here with another figure review. Let's take a look at this awesome older two-pack from Marvel Legend that does feature the War Machine and the Mark 27 prototype from the Avengers, and then the War Machine was from the Civil War movie. But yeah, I do not have the packaging on these figures. I will be popping up some pictures of what the packaging looks like, because these, of course, were the ones that I got down in Florida. Got them for about 25 bucks, so that's not a bad deal. But, you know, looking at them straight away, both of them look really, really nice. Now, the War Machine is one that I've been wanting to get for a long time now, because I just think that looks really, really awesome. We're going to start off with him. Now, of course, we get a slew of just random kind of weapon parts that have no directions. I don't know what happened. I know he came with a pair of fists. I have no idea where they went. But yeah, just a slew of different weapons that have little hinges, and the hinges break off, and I have no idea where to even place half of this stuff on there. But yeah, a handful of little kind of rockets and guns and sort of things like that that do have hinges on them. They're very, very cheap. I tried placing this one up top here because it looked like, okay, that looks like that would fit right there. And you go to pop it in there and it's very, very loose. It just falls right out. But I more or less got it for the figures, just to have a cool, you know, War Machine in the collection. Let's get some brighter lights on here. But yeah, taking a closer look at this figure, I do like it. I like the older style Marvel Legends Iron Man. I feel like they're, like, as the newer ones come out, they're getting a little bit kind of sloppy with the proportions, even though this one does kind of have some sloppy proportions as well. But with it being the War Machine, I feel like it's supposed to be, you know, big and bulky. But I really like the blacks and the silvers and the grays that we're getting. I think the head sculpt turned out really nice. We get a little bit of paint on the eyes, almost like an outline of red around the white part of the eye, so it's very cool. I don't know if it comes through on camera or not. But then, of course, we do get some markings and some little decals and everything all over, some numbers, so it looks really good. The arc reactor looks good. Kind of have like a pearlish white, again with like a pinkish outline. And of course, you just have the rest of the armored parts. We got some guns down here. This is another accessory that came with the figure. Let's see if we get a little bit more guns over here. Back of the figure looks good, again with nice sculpting and everything like that. Very cool Iron Man to add to the collection. Bottom of the feet. Now, there is a little bit of dated articulation within this guy, just because it is a little bit of an older set, especially with the feet, which does make it a little bit annoying and a little bit harder to stand. But I mean, you can see that there's places that you can plug, you know, certain weapons into, but the problem is it just doesn't really seem to want to work, or it doesn't make sense for it to go there. But like right here, you can plug that in, but it's like, okay, so then what? Then what, you can hinge that out and it just kind of pops out. I don't know, I could be doing it wrong, but I mean, definitely, maybe there was instructions in the box, but since I threw the box away because I had to pack everything up, I don't know, but it does come with a bunch of different little, you know, gun pieces that you can kind of set up all around the figure. If it did work, though, I think it would be a lot cooler if it worked, but it just doesn't want to stay in place. Like, that's cool. But I mean, the minute you go touching it or try to rotate it or move it around, it's just going to fall out of there. But yeah, very, very cool looking figure. Awesome to have the War Machine in the collection. Now, as far as posability, you do get a little bit of movement in the head, left and right. It is a little bit hindered just because of how, like, it doesn't really have a neck, so it kind of sits down, and these little armor pieces right here kind of get in the way. Looking up, you're only going to get about that much. Looking down, you can bury his chin in his chest. There is no side to side. I do like the shoulder pads. I mean, they're kind of like on a hinge, so they kind of hinge up a little bit. But you can get his arm up really nice. And of course, that will, you know, go back, forward and back all the way around. There is a bicep swivel. You do have two joints at the elbow, but just because of the sculpt, you're only going to get about 90 degrees out of that. You do have swivel and hinge at the hands. You do have movement at the torso. You can rotate it. You can go back 0, forward just a tiny little bit of side to side, not much. The legs are also hindered. I mean, you can only go about that much out. Kicking forward to kind of go at an angle back. You do have rotation right here at the thigh. You do have a double jointed knee. And then, of course, you know, this is all one solid piece that kind of comes down here and just really limits the movement with the feet. I notice you can kind of like shift forward and shift back with the foot, but it doesn't really help at all. There really is no hinge. It looks like there's almost a toe joint, but you know, it just pops right off when you try to move that. So I don't think that's supposed to be a toe joint, but very, very little bit of movement on that as far as rotation or ankle rocker. But I mean, he does a good job standing up on his own, and he's going to look awesome up on the shelf. And then, of course, the other figure that comes in with this line is the Mark 27, which is a prototype from the Avengers. And I mean, you know, he's kind of alright. I like the design. I like the colors, you know, blue and orange. But this one is going to be more or less kind of like your preference, your taste, whether you like the color scheme or not. But taking a closer look at this figure, again, you know, a decent looking head sculpt. I do like the helmet. Looks cool. I like the arc reactor and how they kind of have spray paint, you know, sprayed some white kind of around it to give it that like a luminous color. So that's pretty cool. The blue is a very dark blue and very shiny, and then we just kind of have this orange. Looks like it's painted on top of the blue in certain places because it's a little bit sloppy. But cool sculpting all throughout the suit, all throughout the armor and everything. And again, I mean, he has holes that you can plug things into. It seems like this gun seems to want to fit nice in there, and then you can kind of hinge this and turn this around, but you only get one of these. So, you know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it doesn't match his outfit at all. So again, I might have lost some accessories within the travels from Florida back to home, because I definitely lost the fist that came with this guy. But again, cool sculpting. You know, again, it's going to be all up to, you know, your preference, whether you like this color scheme or this mark. You know, again, for me, it's just another cool little Iron Man to put up on the shelf. I think it's going to look good up on the shelf. Same issues, a little bit dated with the articulation, and you have the same issues as far as the feet, where, you know, this entire piece just kind of comes down and there's just no movement in the feet whatsoever. But as far as his articulation, you do get rotation at the head. You don't really get any look up at all, which is strange. Like, the head kind of shifts forward and back a little bit on the joint, but very, very minimal head movement. You do get a little bit of side to side with this one. These, again, you have a little bit of a hinge here at the shoulder pad, but his arms do a really good job of going all the way up. I mean, it does look a little bit silly with the shoulder pad, but of course you get, you know, full rotation. You do have a bicep swivel. You do have double jointed elbows, give you about that much range, so much better than the War Machine. The hands do swivel and hinge. You do have movement in the diaphragm, so you can, you know, rotate that. A little bit of side, a little bit of side. You can get back pretty decent, forward a little bit. As far as the legs, they go out. I mean, he basically does the splits. Kicking forward, not so much. You're going to crash this sculpt piece right here. I guess you could kind of turn it, kind of get it out a little bit more, but, you know, it is pretty limited. Going back, not so bad. You do have rotation right there. You get double jointed knees, which surprised me that they didn't have this to kind of hinge back, because that just looks a little bit on the ugly side. If they would have had that, be able to hinge back, would have been a little bit better. And then for the feet, of course, really nothing at all. Little bit of wiggle in there, but, you know, no hinge, no ankle rocker, no nothing. But again, at the end of the day, it's a cool little 2-pack to have, especially if you're definitely into collecting Iron Man figures. They're gonna look good up on the shelf. Now, as far as a measurement, get my ruler out here. It looks like they stand a little bit about the same height. The War Machine is a little bit bigger than him. It looks like the Mark 27's at about 6 1/4, and it looks like the War Machine is actually a little bit shorter. I guess because his head's so far down. Because it looks like, you know, when you stand them next to each other, yeah, this guy's a little bit taller, but if you look at the shoulders, it looks like his shoulders are actually bigger. It's just because of the bigger sculpt, though. But these two guys are good next to each other. Now, as far as some comparisons with some other Marvel Legends, here's the Mark from the Homecoming movie. Here's the Mark 50 from the Infinity War. And here is the Invincible Iron Man. And here they are next to an SH Figure Arts Iron Man. As you can see, they run on a much smaller scale, but yeah, if you want some really nice Iron Man figures, SH Figure Arts is probably going to be the company you want to go with. They really pump out some really nice looking Iron Man figures. But yeah, guys, that was a quick look at the 2-pack of the Avengers prototype Mark 27, and then War Machine. Pretty cool 2-pack. I mean, you can find them at a pretty decent price. They're a little bit high on eBay, but I found mine at like one of those kind of like general market kind of, you know, flea market type places down there for like 28 bucks, and then talking down to 25 bucks, so I just couldn't pass on it. But yeah, that was a look at the 2-pack. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next figure.